founding fathers, take a look around. Is trouble coming? Are we going down? Mother, daughter, and your brother too. Get your mind straight when it's up to you. Hey, you gotta see the storm a-coming. Hey, you gotta feel it coming through. Hey, you gotta see the storm a-coming. Whoa, it's coming after you. When the snake bites.
Okay, Americans, this is Paul Harvey. No, cut that out.
Maybe.
Now, this is Greg Seagroves, and this is another episode of Reflections of an Uncommon Common Man. I'm here with Pat Dowdy and my grandson, Connor McDaniel.
How's it going?
And today's date is September the 14th, 2020. And we're trying to make podcasts great again. That's the purpose of this podcast. But anyway,
We'll keep trying.
anything that we hadn't discussed that, I think I asked you this earlier. Anything exciting happened in your life here lately?
Oh, Lord, no.
Pat?
Lord, no.
Okay. All right. So I think Connor, he works all the time, so I don't know if anything exciting happens to him.
Just work.
Pretty much.
But I have noticed that here lately people are running up to me of all ages saying things like, I like your bumper stickers on my car. I've got Trump bumper stickers.
Oh, good.
I had some teenagers run out the other day. They made a special trip to run out of the convenience store the other day. And
Really?
said, yeah, I said, I
They
love
didn't
your...
bash your windows in?
No. They said, sir, I love your bumper stickers. And then a woman today hollered out the window, as I was passing. And I thought she road rage or something, And she says, I love your bumper stickers,
Nice.
So...
I've been kind of afraid to put my Trump sign out in my backyard because it's on a busy road. And
Oh, yeah.
been hearing about houses getting shot up with Trump
Oh,
signs.
yeah,
so, yeah, I got a new house, so I
Oh, I want
I'm
one.
hesitant.
I
Too
want
early
one.
for the bullet holes, you're saying.
right.
I want one like that dude that he electrified his Trump sign.
Yeah,
yeah, that's funny.
that was hilarious. Love that.
I seen another one where they put razor blades on the back or something like that, or barbed wire on the back.
Yeah. Oh,
And
man.
so, like, if they tried to grab it and pull it
Right.
up, it was,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Stick them.
yeah.
Hey,
Stinking liberals.
I mean, that's
Hey.
not even a political thing. It's like, stop touching my property thing. I don't
Right.
care what the sign says.
Right. I remember one time I was working. Was back in '94 when the Republicans won that landslide in both the House and the Senate.
Right.
And I was putting out all these signs for Bill Frist and Fred Thompson and
Oh, yeah.
I can't. Oh, who was the guy who used to be the talk show host here in Nashville? He almost beat Bart Durham. Oh, no, not Bart Durham. Bart Gordon.
The lawyer?
You know who I'm talking about?
I do. What's
That
his name?
corpse who calls himself a lawyer? Is that who you're talking about?
No. Now this was a Democratic senator in this area for a long time, Bart Gordon.
Think of his name.
But anyway, he used to be the talk show host. You know.
Right. Yep.
But anyway, I was putting these signs out, and so I put them out on the side of the road, and no sooner than I drove off, I saw this woman stop, and she ran up and started taking all my signs up, And so I made a U-turn and come back around, and I sit there and just watched her, and she started freaking out, man. And, of course, this is back before everybody had a cell phone, you know.
Right.
She, I don't know if she had one or she was acting like she had one, but anyway, I sat there and watched for a long time, and I wasn't doing anything wrong because she was the one doing that. I think it's against the law to do
It is
that.
against the law.
And so she was then I took off, and she comes in behind me. She's following me like she's gonna, and she's on. It looks like she's on her cell phone calling 911 and everything. But I'm thinking I would.
Hey,
I would,
911! I just stole some signs, and I'm following the guy who
yeah,
put them out.
because he stared at me. Oh man, but
Stupid.
But
people.
anyway, we'll get to the subject matter here. Now, the other day, September 11th, it blows my mind that September 11th was the 19th anniversary of that day,
Right.
September 11th. And I don't know where all that time went, but anyway, I was thinking, about that, and here you had 19 terrorists flew planes into a building. They caused the death of almost 3,000 Americans in one day.
Yep.
They in 19 years of fighting in Afghanistan, we've had about 2,500, and that kind of shocked me. I thought the casualty rate was higher than that, but we've only lost about 2,500, people fighting over in Afghanistan in 19 years.
Yeah, how many people we killed?
Oh yeah. We I'm sure we messed up a bunch of their days over there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was thinking about all that, and I read where 9/11 was the second largest insurance recovery, in American history. They paid out $40 billion in insurance cost, and that's probably not counting people that weren't insured or whatever, And but anyway, I was thinking, what happened to this country? I remember right after 9/11 happened, everybody was going around wearing NYPD hats. The police, you couldn't get any higher in esteem after they saw those guys go into the building, especially the fire department. You had New York Fire Department hats and PD hats, and everybody was just, to be a cop was just the thing,
Right.
after 9/11. And here we are now 19 years later, and they're hated. Of course, I think,
Don't even recognize the country anymore.
right, I think the American people overall still love cops, probably as much almost as they did then. I look at these people that are, if you stop and think, I've heard people say after, today when they're talking about 9/11, well, the country came together for a little while. No, it didn't. I mean, if you stop and think about it, the same players that were involved, I think we were united maybe for one day. And then it started, they started blaming Bush.
Right.
Bush was unprepared. And,
Right.
of course, they forgot that Clinton, all those years that he allowed, Al-Qaeda just go unnoticed.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't say nothing about it, as they usually do.
Right.
But it's the same players. And so, I look at that, and I got to thinking, of all just what we've been going through in the last few years, when you think of all the destruction just in the last few months of what Black Lives Matter and Antifa
Yep.
and the Democratic Party is allowing it to happen. They're just standing back and allowing these guys to run free. And it got me to thinking, why, the definition of terrorism. Let me see if I can find it here. Definition of a terrorist is a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims, or unlawfully using violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims, a terrorist organization. And, I want somebody to explain to me how Black Lives Matter, Antifa, And even the Democratic Party is not a terrorist
They
organization.
are all three domestic terrorists.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
Many from the Democrat Party have funded a lot of this stuff. And you hear occasionally, you'll hear a politician speak up, and they're trying to push it through to where they can label them as domestic terrorists, which is exactly what they are.
Right.
Nothing less.
Right. And of course, I don't know that we'll ever be able to brand them a terrorist organization, but
And that's only because half of the country is with them.
right,
You
right.
know?
Well, I don't even think it's half.
Well, I don't think it is either, but that half that call themselves liberals or
Yeah.
progressives
Yeah.
or Democrats.
but I think you probably got a hardcore 20% of the country that
Right.
screwed up in the head.
So why aren't we stomping it out
Oh, I agree.
like a forest fire?
Yeah,
Just stomp it out.
Absolutely, I agree. But again, it comes to what we've been talking about a lot. It stems from people not knowing what's really going on,
Right.
and making people, we've talked about this, but the narrative has to change. We have to, in history, we have to show how the Democratic Party has screwed this country up from the get-go. Okay, we have to somehow get people's focus away from the Republican Party as the conservative party is the racist party,
Right.
as opposed to and first of all, we got to get our history right and our narrative right, and then we got to focus people's attention on what they're doing now,
Right.
and you throw in all the black people in urban neighborhoods that have died because of Democratic policies. They're allowing thugs to run free.
Absolutely.
Look at all the abortions that have
Yep.
taken place in this country. Over 60 million people have died,
Sickening.
and you got over 20 million black children have died.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I just think that they have to be held accountable some way or another. But during all together, if you had Al Qaeda, Hezbollah, Hamas, ISIS, all the foreign terrorists to put together cannot add up to what the Democrats what they've done in this country.
I agree.
And we go back again to 19 years, and we think, how did we get from that thing and the way we regarded? And look at the NFL. The NFL, the NBA, and all that. They were honoring police officers. They were putting up yellow ribbons and doing everything they could. They were proud of the national anthem and
now they're honoring rapists and murderers.
Absolutely. And how did we get from there to here? And I think we have to go back to the election of Barack Obama.
Yep.
And this is one thing that people need to think about, is that he said this one time and one time only, and the press let him off the hook. They never really came back and questioned what he really meant by this particular thing he said. And what he said during the 2008 election, he said, "We cannot continue to rely on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded." And what did he mean by that?
Exactly.
Here's the thing. When you fact check this, the fact checkers, factcheck.org, PolitiFact, Snopes, all those, they're all left wing anyway, the fact
Yes,
checkers.
they are.
They'll try to explain it away by saying, well, he meant we need to increase the Peace Corps. We need to increase
No, that's not what he
AmeriForce and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were security forces.
No. They're not. And if people knew that Snopes
yeah,
consist of an owner, his wife, and one person that does the fact checking,
Yeah.
quote unquote,
Yeah.
that has no business checking anything.
Right.
They don't background anything. It's just one person.
Right.
It's a one-sided opinion. Is
Right.
all it is.
Right.
And people take it as gospel.
that's fact. Yeah,
It's like, oh, Snopes said it's false.
yeah.
It's one person that said it's false.
Yeah, it's their
That's
opinion.
it.
It's their opinion. And I did an article one time about the fact checkers, how screwed up they are.
They are.
But again, they've been able to capture a narrative that somehow they're the purveyors of truth,
Right.
and we need to get away. That's something we need to get away from.
Well, the people with common sense understand that they
Right.
aren't.
Sure.
It's the idiots that don't know how to research things on their own.
Right.
Oh, let me check Snopes.
Yeah.
It says false.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Lord.
a lot of things too, especially when you're looking at historical things. It's just it's you can easily take things out of context.
Right.
Kind of the way we do the Bible and everything else. I mean, it's kind of like, slave owners. Back in the day, they used the Bible to condone slavery. The Bible never anywhere condoned slavery. Matter of fact, if you read it the way it was meant to be read, the Bible really doesn't speak out on any social problem.
No.
But in a way it does, because you take slavery, for example. When Paul, I forget the name of the slave, but there was a slave master and a slave had gotten saved and under Paul's ministry, and he was talking to the slave owner, and he was sending him back to the slave owner, but he was saying accept him as a brother.
Right.
You can't accept a slave as a brother. So in that way, that was a commentary on the social problem at the time, but it was approaching it from a Christian perspective.
Right.
I don't know if I agree with that, because wouldn't you
Shocker.
State your facts.
Wouldn't you call, take for example, people who were, well, that's technically a religious thing, but I don't know. Let's look at, Peter, when he feels ashamed because he's hanging out with people who are uncircumcised, for instance, and Paul's, saying, you're being an idiot. Or take Jesus, like I would call feeding the poor, like that's a social thing, isn't it? Poor people not eating is a social issue.
No, well, what I'm talking about, I know what you're saying, but what I'm talking about, Jesus was executed by the method of capital punishment used by the Romans. I don't know of anywhere in the Bible that the Bible really speaks out against capital punishment. As a matter of fact, you can interpret that it, when it says, what does it say? Blood would be required for blood, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but
An eye for an eye.
Yeah, eye for an eye. Of course, you got to read that in context too, But because when you compare that against love your enemies and all that, but
it depends. I think it just depends on how you look at social issues, because like loving your neighbor, or showing love to your neighbor, or going out and feeding people who are hungry, or watching after the widow. These are social issues.
yeah,
I mean, not some like looking at it through today's lens.
but he's not saying to the government, take care of the widow.
Right.
He's not saying
Well,
to
yeah,
the government.
you can say that Jesus didn't, speak other than give on to Caesar what is Caesar's. That's what he said about government.
Right.
But social issues, I'd say that, whenever someone says, "Hey, Jesus was the first social justice warrior,"
okay,
as
let me
cringy
let
as
me
it
re
is-
let me rephrase it. I'm not saying he didn't speak about social issues. I'm just simply saying that he didn't advocate one way or the other that big. In other words, you can we'll take what Jesus said about divorce. You know, he said, "I gave you marriage. You know, I didn't give you divorce. That doesn't come from me. It comes from Satan." Okay. Polygamy. You know, in the Old Testament, Abraham, Lot, you know, all the patriarchs, they were polygamous. Okay, but by the time of Jesus, Jews were monogamous again. You know, so something occurred in that span of years to make them realize that, hey, polygamy was wrong, that polygamy came out of paganism, that they were getting back. But you don't see in the Bible that Jesus or God or the Bible preaching against polygamy, you know. But something happened there, you know, and I'm saying I think it was God's teaching on marriage that goes all the way back to Adam and Eve and all that they were somehow they got it. They realized that, hey, polygamy was wrong, that we need to get back to monogamy, you know. But it's just like divorce, you know. Jesus wasn't making a big deal. He was just saying, hey, you know, I didn't give you divorce. God gave you marriage, you know. I'm just saying, you know, like capital punishment. You can go around saying the Romans are, you know, they got the end capital punishment.
No, I agree with that. But it's just like, it depends on how. I feel like, is capital punishment a political issue or a social issue?
I'd say it's both. I'd say, you know, it depends on how we define social issues, but.
Yeah, that's maybe that's probably where we're disagreeing here. Is I feel like we're thinking of two different things when we're thinking social issues or social justice.
Yeah, but what started this conversation?
I don't know. You're the one who brought it up.
We're talking about slavery.
Oh yeah. But I think I was just making the point that people tend to take things out of context and for their own purposes, you know. And
where we are today, what's changed since 9/11?
Well, yeah, the thing about 9/11, though, getting back to what Obama said about the security force, where I was going with this was the fact that I believe, because Black Lives Matter happened on his watch,
right?
Antifa happened on his watch. Those are his security forces that you're talking about. And they are well paid.
By Soros.
By Soros. Everybody goes out and riots and everything is getting paid.
Yes, they are.
Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have individuals that are joining in just for the fun of it.
And they are.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the ones that are really organizing, creating havoc and all that. They're well paid.
This has all been a plan. It's been planned for years, and here we are. They're creating division between Americans, and it's so blatant anymore. I just watched. I posted it, but Follow the Cabal. Have you seen that? There's 10 episodes of it. You need to look at it. It's on YouTube.
Now, what is this?
It talks about everything that's going on right now, and
I mean, is this like on Netflix or something?
No, it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
It's a documentary.
And called The Cabal?
Fall of the Cabal.
Oh, Fall of the Cabal.
And it's
okay.
parts 1 through 10.
Yeah.
And it talks about all this, and it talks about all these bad people that we have amongst us in our government, the wealthy, the powerful. You know, they've been trying to get us into that stream of a one world government, one world currency, control population, all that. And this right here, what we're seeing right now, all falls into their little master plan. It's been planned out. They knew that they needed some sort of catalyst to be able to catapult this forward with the divisiveness with Americans and so forth, and these riots, and you know, they're dividing the races right now. And that old saying of you know, divided we fall.
Sure.
I mean, here we are, and that's the whole plan, to make America fall. We're the greatest country in the world. We've accomplished more than any other country in history, throughout history. There's a lot of great things about this country, but in order to get everyone to fall in line, they've got to break America, and here we are.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, but what I don't get, I just can't fathom who would be upset with America being like it is. I mean,
Everybody.
you know, well, what I'm saying though, I'm just looking at the perspective of someone who's. It's just like we were talking to a friend that they're from an Arab country, and we were arguing about, not arguing, we were kind of debating, about Trump, and he's not a big fan of Trump, and but he's from a foreign country, and I asked him, I said, why did you come to this country?
Right.
He said, because it's a land of opportunity, and I said, you just nailed it. I said, I want to keep this the land of opportunity.
Right.
Because if we go their way, it'll no longer be that.
It won't.
And there will be
just
no
like every
country
other
in the
country.
world that will be that.
It
you know?
won't.
And that's what I mean when I say I can't fathom why. I can understand somebody like Soros.
And there's a group of people like
Yeah.
Soros, the Rothschilds, the
Right.
Rockefellers, Bill Gates,
Right.
all these wealthy, powerful people who think they're above and beyond any politics, any law. They feel like they are entitled, and they feel like, if we fall into like a communistic type country, there's the haves and the have-nots, and the haves are all of them. Everybody else needs to work for them and to provide for them. And I've read so much into this, and it's like, it's really sickening in my opinion that it's coming to fruition right
But
now.
do they really believe that they're going to survive this in the end?
Oh, they do.
You know?
Absolutely, they do.
But
'cause
they're
rich and
not.
powerful.
Yeah.
They're not.
Well,
But yeah, you
would
gotta
hope
look
they're
at it
not.
that way. He's on to something, because it's like, why? You say this one a lot. It's useful idiots, right?
Right.
And who are they being used by? Okay, people who want power. All right.
Yeah.
So if you want power over something, you gotta convince people to vote for you. What do you say? All right, you ever go to the mechanic and they unplug something while they're fixing your car, so you'll come back to them?
Mm-hmm.
All right, you gotta make them believe something's wrong, so they'll vote for you. So
Yeah.
it's like, get your people, get your base really riled up about capitalism, and then we're gonna fix it for you.
And then they present a solution. Here's our solution. This is much better than what we're
Exactly, and it's like, you can convince somebody. Like, if you can sell something, and I know people who
Hey.
that's their job, they're salesmen. They can,
seeing. That's the media's job right now.
They can
They're
get your
selling
head.
it to the
Exactly.
public, and the public is buying it. The people that do not have a brain and cannot think for themselves, that won't stop, turn the news off, and do their own research, are falling for this. Look at all the people wearing the mask. Look at all the people. I mean, that's just a prime example right there. And then they're making us think that the end-all, be-all is this vaccine that they're coming up with that they've taken 8 months to create. Everybody's going to have to take it. They have a solution for everything. They're the solution. We
Yeah.
can show you a better life.
You got to create a problem for them to fix. That's why I brought
Yeah.
up the mechanic thing. They unplug something, whatever.
Yes.
You go in to get your oil changed, they unplug the O2 sensor, and then you're like, oh, I don't know what's wrong. My check engine light's on.
Right. Oh, well, let me check it out. Well,
And
I
it goes,
can fix this for
and things don't change when you go higher up the ladder. There's just more money and more power, right?
Yep.
So it's like, we have to create a problem so they come to us. And sometimes they sell you on something where it's like, there's not even a problem here, but a real good salesman, like your media, is going to convince you there is,
Yeah,
or create the problems.
absolutely. And they keep hammering it and over again, and these people are just buying into all the lies. It's all lies. Everything they've fed us since March. But that was that one circumstance that they could use to push forward their true agenda. And here we are, and I honestly don't think anything is going to go back to what we used to think was normal.
And see,
We're in it.
that's another thing that bothers me is this thing. I hate to hear this term, new normal.
Yep.
Jimmy Carter started this crap. Well, what I mean by when everything at the end of the 70s was gone to crap, okay? You had Japanese steel was outpacing us because they had modernized their equipment and their technology, and we had kind of let ours languish. And same way with car industry and all our heavy industries and everything. So by the end of the 70s and early 80s, you had the Rust Belt because Japanese and foreign manufacturers were putting us out of business because it was our own fault.
Yes, it was.
We had allowed them to outpace us. We had allowed them. They were building, for example, the car industry. They were building the small cars because they saw the writing on the wall, with the Middle Eastern oil situation, and that we were going to have an oil shortage, and American car manufacturers were making these big gas guzzlers, and the quality had gone way, way down, and all this. So all this stuff hit at one time. And you had, in 73, you had the oil shortage, which everybody was lined up at the gas stations, And it happened again in 79. Well, 79 is the one that was the killer because that's what, almost put us out of business. And that's when all the Northerners started moving down south because we were the only one that had jobs, because our economies were more diversified and everything. And so anyway, my mind is, I'm having a Joe Biden moment here.
Don't do that.
It's after 8 o'clock, when you got frontal lobe dementia.
Still in my jokes now. I did that at a live show. I started stumbling over myself and into the microphone. I'm like, oh, I'm having a Joe Biden moment up here or something like that.
Oh, okay. And
he was there too. He was at that one because it was an acoustic show. He was cracking up.
Let me go back to it before I forget again. Carter was trying to get everybody to cut their thermostats up to 70 degrees or something like that, and in the summer and I forgot in the winter and all that, and he was sitting there, in his little sweater and the rocking chair and trying to tell the American people that America greatness is behind them. We got to get used to the way things are now.
Right.
And I remember thinking, even then, I was thinking, I do not want to hear my president ever say that. That America's greatness is behind them.
Right.
And then Reagan came in there and he says, "Morning, America. We're our best is yet to come." And that's what I want to hear an American president said. And then Clinton got in there. Clinton said the same thing. And then if you listen, Obama said the same thing.
Yep.
He used that word, new normal, and everything. And
that
was his excuse. Yeah, that was his excuse for 2% GDP.
Right.
For 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And that he said many of the businesses that Trump has brought back would never come back.
Right.
Okay. So what I'm getting at is that I don't want to hear a leader, especially a president of the United States, ever say America's best times are behind them.
Right. Right. That's not a true leader.
Right. And so I don't know where I'm going with this, but anyway.
Anyway, it sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we're way off track, aren't we?
Yeah.
I don't take any blame for it, though. I barely talk.
I'm sorry. It was me.
But now, I don't know what we do about it. Again, it's kind of like, what we always come down. We know the problem. How to fix it, that's a tougher thing, and I don't even know.
Well, I think we know how to fix it.
I know we know how to fix it.
Yeah, we know how to fix it.
But we're not in power.
Right. And the thing is, and I'm talking about good old-fashioned way of fixing it. But,
Right.
it's having enough people with enough courage to stand up and say, we're not doing this anymore. You're going to stop. This is where we're going. This is all crap. We're not going to turn into a globalist country or socialism or communism or Marxism or any of the above. We have our founding fathers. We have our documents, and let's go forward. And if you don't like it, there's the door.
All right. I agree. And, of course, a lot of it is just us. I was standing in a store. I'm not going to mention which one it was the other day, and guy, a guy walks in with his family, and all of them are not wearing masks, and the manager walked up to him and said, "Sorry, sir, you got to have a mask." And working security, I thought, oh, crap, he's going to come to me and tell him, to handle it. But he didn't. The guy walked in, and he says, "You want my business, you're going to have me without a mask,"
Right.
And
good for him.
And yeah, that's what I was thinking to myself. Good to go, man.
Yeah.
Good way to go. But on the other hand, I was in the position of if he had come to me and said he's got to go, he can't be in here without a mask. Then as a security officer,
Right.
I had to enforce the rules.
Yeah.
But I was glad that he did that. I mean,
Right.
and I'm wanting to see more people do that.
Well, what happened after that?
Well, he shopped. I mean, he came in and
Oh,
You
they were
let him
just
shop?
yeah, he did.
It's because even a lot of store, a lot of the people working behind the register don't believe in. The
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I always know I'm in a safe place when I see the person behind the register only covering like a portion of their face.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's just trying to keep his job.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's exactly.
He don't care.
Yeah. I've not worn a mask anywhere since this whole thing started, and I had one person say one thing to me, and as soon as I said, "Sorry, I have a health condition, I'm not wearing one," they turned and walked away.
Yeah.
Didn't kick me out, didn't try to get me to leave. And I'm
lucky
not wearing
you.
one. I don't believe it.
And the thing about it is, a lot of people when they hear us talk like this, they're thinking that what we're saying is that this disease is false, and that's not what we're saying.
No.
We're saying, yeah, it's a real disease,
Sure.
but you don't give your life up
No, you
over a
don't.
disease.
I mean, last year tuberculosis killed 1.5 million people. Did
Yeah.
you wear a mask?
No.
How many people does cancer kill every year?
Yeah.
How about the flu?
Absolutely.
And of course, the numbers are skewed for the flu from last flu season because
Of this, yeah.
because
Yeah.
they've kind of factored in some COVID deaths where they shouldn't have been. And every day we're seeing something else new come out.
Right.
The CDC comes out and says 94% were of the deaths have been comorbidity, other underlying reasons for their death, such as car accidents,
Right.
heart attacks. Really?
Well, take another thing. A friend of mine, a week or so ago, I think it was on Labor Day, we got in a discussion. He said he was watching National Geographic, where the polar bears were, having to deal with the ice melting and everything.
Oh, Lord.
And I said, so what? I mean, I said, we go back 1,000 years. I said, I don't know if man's calling it. I think it's probably sunspots or something like that.
Well,
If
it's
we're
natural-
having that,
It's a natural flow that the Earth goes through.
right, right,
It happens.
right.
And the other thing is, like, this whole global warming thing that old Al, what's his
Al
face?
Gore, he made
my
billions
gosh.
out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The films that they would show, they'd show chunks of ice just falling off.
That happens all the time.
It does happen all the time. And the reason being is because the polar ice caps can only get so big, and once they expand to where the weather's warm enough to melt them,
Then they're gonna
it melts and falls off. But
right.
they haven't stopped growing. They're still growing.
Uh-huh.
They're still there. They're the same size.
Right.
And then they show these poor, pathetic little polar bears. They're not endangered up there. They're still
There's
fishing.
more
and-
polar bears today than there were.
Yeah,
There is.
there are more polar bears alive today than whenever Inconvenient Truth originally came out.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know what is a pretty decent thing though. Whenever you said global warming or climate change, there I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Well,
I don't know
Well,
if it's
except for
'cause
when
I-
you hear the what is it, Governor Gavin, what's his face out in California,
Right.
blaming these forest fires on global warming.
and
when
it's
it's
more forest management.
forest
I don't
management
know.
and arsonist.
Yeah.
An arsonist.
Absolutely.
That is it.
Yeah.
Only
And they
you.
said it's amazing how the forest fires have pretty much stopped when they reach the Canadian border.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Because they have better forest management.
Bingo.
Yeah.
or the Canadians did it.
Maybe so, man. They're trying to take control.
But the bottom line, though, what I was trying to tell the friend when we were talking about it is all this is a plot to take over the United States economy. That's all it is.
Yes, it
They
is.
want you to give the economy over to them, and
And be dependent upon them.
absolutely. When I was in Mildenhall, England, back in 1990, and this has been going on a long time. It's ecological,
Right.
green stuff and all that. I remember even back when me and you were over in Germany, in the 80s.
Right.
They had what they call the Green Party over there.
Yes.
That's what their big deal was.
Oh, yeah.
I remember at one of the reasons they had protests when I was at that air show over there was the Green Party was mad because Ryan Mine Air Force Base was going to expand their runway and they were going to cut down some trees. They were all upset. So this has been going on for a long time.
Absolutely. What do you also remember in the 70s when they started talking about
Global
a new
cooling.
an ice age?
Yeah.
We're going to have another ice age.
Yeah.
So everybody, and I was young, so I believed it. And I'm like, what? We're going to have an ice age. How are we going to survive? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And this whole global warming thing, when scientists started coming out and disagreeing with it, saying, this is a natural effect, A,
Right.
and B, there's hotter times on records back in the 1800s than now. So they changed it to climate change. Well, you can't disagree with climate change, can you? Because it changes all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost daily, right?
Absolutely.
So you can't
they,
disagree.
They changed it to climate change because global warming wasn't panning out for them.
Right.
It was funny. Every time, I used to laugh about this, every time Al Gore would fly somewhere to a summit,
Right.
we were in the middle of an ice storm or,
Right.
one of the coldest, things. And so, they had to come up with this climate change.
Right.
You can't argue with climate change.
Right. No.
Look,
But-
scientists, same scientists believe that the universe made itself. You know what I mean? They don't know nothing.
No, I
right.
agree.
And
And that's the thing, this is the thing that I get. Like Gavin Newsom said this other day. He said he has no patience for climate deniers. Okay, and what they're in essence saying. Oh, he was saying that it's settled. The whole issue is settled.
Right.
That's not science.
No. It's not.
If something is settled, then that means it's not scientific.
Right.
Science is always an open-ended question.
It is.
That there's a possibility there's another answer out there.
Right. And keep searching for it.
Right, and you keep searching for it. But getting back, to what I was getting ready to say, in 1990, I was over in Mildenhall, England, at the air base over there. And we were sitting out. I was working the flight line one day, and there was all these KC-135. You know what that is?
Yep.
They were all lined up there to take off. And the old KC-135s have 4 engines that are the same engine that's on the B-52. The only difference is the B-52 has 8 of them instead of 4. Right. And when they take off, they look like a old coal locomotive. Okay,
Right.
with the black smoke going behind them and all that. And so we were sitting there, and this security policeman who was active duty, I was in the guard. He says, "Watch this." And about that time, this old KC 135 takes off, and the black smoke and all that. And he said, "Now watch this plane." And I noticed something different about it. Instead of 4 engines, they had 2 big engines on it, and you could barely even hear this thing.
Right.
I mean, that KC 135 took off. It was shaking the ground. Okay, this one you could barely even hear it idling. And it takes off. You could hardly hear it. Was no smoke behind it. And he said they're changing all those old engines over to this new engine. And to me, that's an example of where technology meets economy. I mean, ecology.
Right.
Is that they can work out. If you truly are, I'm a ecologist. I want clean air.
Sure.
I want clean water.
Sure.
I want all the good stuff. Healthy stuff.
Right.
In the atmosphere. I remember going into Nashville back in the early 70s, late 60s, and you couldn't even see the skyline because of the smog, And the improvements they made to cars, have cut a lot of that out.
Factories and all that stuff.
Factories and all that. So the point I'm making here is a true ecologist wants to have technology be able to, use coal, use gas, whatever, and clean the air up.
Right.
But that's not what this is about. This is about taking over the United States economy. When you talk about wind power, you talk about solar power, you can't build enough of those to run a grid, electronic grid, and all that. Plus, if you really want to get clean, nuclear power.
Right.
If you really want to, change the environment, go to nuclear.
Right. Yep.
But everybody, but they don't want a solution. It's like everything else.
No, they don't. They want you to quit flying, quit driving.
Right. But yet they fly everywhere.
Quit passing gas. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they'll fly everywhere.
Yeah.
One person on a big jumbo jet.
Right. I mean,
Gore.
it's like, a big house he's got over in Bellmead.
Oh,
Cracked me up that time that the guy went over and figured out how much he was spending on electricity every month and all that kind of stuff. But, all right, well, I think I pretty much covered the subject. Kind of a short one tonight, I guess, but I do want to mention too, in line with what we were talking about. We were talking about this earlier, but this horrible situation that happened out in California with these LA police officers that were shot in the face, by this idiot, and how they were coming into the hospital and, trying to get at them while they're in the emergency room and everything. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know when American people will just stand up and say enough is enough. This is the ultimate, to me, in stupidity and the mob taking over. But but we as Americans have got to change. We've got to stand up. We got to do something.
How about today?
Today, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Dude, my bedtime was three minutes ago. All right, not today.
All right. Well, let's see. Pat, you want to pray or do you want?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll take us out. I denied you last time.
Okay.
Yeah, just don't deny him 3 times.
Right? Oh, I'm no Judas.
That's Peter.
That was Peter.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, Peter. Sorry.
I should have said these things in the mic, but I didn't.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time that we get to spend together and talk about things going on in the world today in our country. And Lord, I ask that you just place a hedge of protection around all of us in this country and watch over our president, help him make the right decisions. Lord, help us gain control back over this country. Lord, I ask that you protect each and every one of us. And in your name I pray. Amen. Short and sweet.